Hello everyone, it's great to have you all on board. Another time with tutor. It's another time with tutor.io, the enthusiastic tutor tutorial. It POL316 have been done. You all are expected to have a writing material. Okay, that was the thing from the service provider. I think we're good to go now. So for those of us who are new to the stream, let's ensure to subscribe to the channel. Let's ensure to smash the like button, and most importantly, please ensure to join our private class where we walk you through all your courses without leaving any unattended to. And basically, like I said earlier, we're going to be walking through this together, and we're going to be covering the whole course material as we go through this one step at a time. And, eventually, if anything I said during the course of the class that you don't understand, you need to do all to draw my attention to it in the comment section. All right. This being said, let's just get into it. So it says, according to the thumbnail, it says political evaluation. Political evaluation. All right. When we talk about political evaluation, what are we talking about? Why do we need to evaluate politics? Of what essence is that to politics? Of what essence is evaluation to politics? What do we intend to achieve? All right. When we evaluate, what do we intend to achieve? Why do we evaluate? What goals do you bear in mind when you are evaluating politics? All right. Political evaluation is a combination of two words, all right, which are politics and political and evaluation. Those activities that has to do with politics. And just like we know already, politics is interwoven with government, ensuring the smooth running of the state, ensuring improved standard of living for the citizens, improving standard of living, and most importantly, ensuring orderliness, all right, and organize the activities that goes on in the state. All these are interwoven into government, politics, and political decisions. All right. And likewise, we have evaluation. When we talk about evaluation, what are we referring to? Speaking of which, when we talk evaluation, we are simply putting into consideration what we refer to as a systematic process of what? Assessing. You want to find out, you want to dissect, you want to know, you want to do some in depth research, you want to do some proper dissecting, proper juxtaposing proper discerning of the worth, the merit, or significance of a phenomenon, or of something. To evaluate, you are intentional about knowing the what, the worth, okay, the importance, the merits, the significance of that thing you have chosen to evaluate. Now, bringing these two together from the definition of evaluation, we then know that when we talk about political evaluation, we are bearing in mind, we are to consideration the proper, the systematic assessing, the systematic assessing, the systematic process. All right. So one thing we need to notice that when we talk about evaluation, it is a process, and it's not just any kind of process. It is a systematic process. When we say something is systematic, it is scientific. All right. When we say something is systematic in nature, that is to say, it is scientific in nature. That is to say, everything you will be doing, every process, every theory, every method, every approaches must go through some scrutiny, some must go through what we refer to as a precept upon precept until you achieve or you arrive at the intended junction. Are we together? Now, speaking of which, political evaluation, as we have said, is said to be the systematic acquisition, all right, and assessment of information to provide useful feedback about what? Governance. Are we together? I need to get a rest of backup to first highlight this very quickly. Okay, so we have politics, so we have governance. All right. So the combination of this and this gives us what we now refer to as systematic. Systematic what? Acquisition. Acquisition and assessment. All right. Acquisition or assessment of info to feedback about governance. Full stop. So basically, this is the all and sundry. Okay? When we talk about political evaluation, this is the all and sundry of it. Just like we said, before we talk about political evaluation, we need to understand what it means by politics, all right, or political activity, which we refer to as activities that is interwoven with governance. And when we talk about governance, we are referring to process of ensuring the smooth running of a state, all right, with the ultimate goal of ensuring peace and orderliness in mind. Then we have evaluation. So it's a process, all right, and this process is systematic. All right, this process is systematic. And when we say it's systematic, in nature, it is scientific, meaning that there are certain steps, there are certain approaches, there are certain observe you must follow to arrive at an expected junction. Are we together? So bringing both together with them. Okay, I think we are back. How's everything from the service provider? Can we all hear me? Now, as we have said, okay, as we have rightfully said, we'll bring these two terms together. Then we have the systematic acquisition, all right? After you have systematically or scientifically acquired, you then assess, all right? We can substitute this with verify, validate, all right? You acquire, therefore, you verify, you assess, you validate, all right? What are you assessing? What are you validating? All right? It is information. Information. So what kind of information is this? This information with providing useful feedback about a particular government. Don't forget when you are evaluating, you want to know the stance. You want to know the worth. You want to know if it's having this system, or you want to know how effective this system has been, or you want to know if it is even necessary to introduce this new system. You want to know the merits, the importance, the relevance of that particular, all right, of that particular thing you are trying to evaluate. And in this case, what we are trying to evaluate will be governance. I mean, if this happens to be the compulsory question, I believe you should get an extra sheet with all what we have explained now. You're getting two full extra just to attempt, all right, this question, if it happens to be your compulsory question. So with this being said, let's move on. Now it says here, political evaluation is the analysis of social activities, all right, and behavior relating to systems of political governance. When you put into consideration, when you're intentional about knowing the political, all right, we're intentional about knowing the social activities and behavior that relates to systems of political governance, and you are talking political evaluation. Now, the essence of political evaluation is to help strengthen, okay, is to help strengthen governance, definitely. When you are evaluating, is one way of finding out how to further improve. If there are loopholes, figure it out, then improve the system, make the system more functional, more responsive, efficient, and effective. Are we together? So the bottom line or the purpose behind you conducting or the conducting of political evaluation is basically to ensure that the governance is being improved. In order to strengthen governance, it is necessary to evaluate the status of governance. All right. So while talking about evaluating governance, you need to what? You need to look into status, all right, assessments. So because you need to improve this system, you need to know the status, you need to evaluate the status of government, all right, so that you can know how to get your information and give the feedbacks on how to improve the system. All right. Now, such an evaluation has to provide objective, meaningful, and comparative judgment on a national state government effectiveness and quality. All right. Like we have said earlier, once you are since you are conducting this assessment, definitely you have to provide objective, all right, meaningful comparative judgment about the nation state's government effectiveness and quality. So you want to consider how effective the governance is, how effective the government is. You need to give judgment, and when you are giving judgment, indeed you have to be scientific about it. All right, because you cannot just give a myopic, all right, a limited judgment. No, your judgments must be verified. All right, just like we have it in research work. Before you conclude your research, before you arrive at a particular junction, you will prove it. All right, you will show it through your data and analysis. All right, with this, I have collected through my questionnaires or other means of collecting data on the field. Then you have analyzed. You show us how you analyze this data and how you reference or how you relate this data to your case study. All right, and then you can begin to make your inferences and begin to do your testing of hypothesis. All right, and as soon as you are done with that, you can therefore arrive at a junction. And this junction, there will be proofs of the steps you have taken before you arrive at this judgment. Same thing we are doing here. All right. So you cannot give a myopic judgment. You cannot give a limited or a prejudiced judgment. It has to be systematic. All right. So we have that as that. Now, so based on this, we can therefore say government is measurable. All right. Based on this, we can therefore say government or governance is measurable. Okay, this includes the measure of corruption. Speaking of the status assessment, all right, you want to dissect everything that makes up this government. All right, you need to measure this governance, and when you say measurement, there are certain things you are putting into consideration that makes up the total quantity of the measurement. All right, the measure will include competitiveness, political risk, independence, judiciary, human rights, political inclusiveness, bureaucratic effectiveness, and general measures of human development. A whole lot goes into that, though. All right. When we talk about the governance or when we talk about government, a lot of things goes into it. So we want to consider everything that goes or everything that makes up government as a whole in that particular society. As I said, nation society, nation state. You want to put every activity that goes into running that nation state effectively. All right, because those are your measures, your yardstick for measurement. Right, the level of corruption, the level of human rights, political inclusiveness, bureaucratic effectiveness, all right, human development, and so on and so forth. Now, you need to bear in mind that the goal is to determine the level of government accomplishments. All right. Measurable. Determine the level of accomplishment. The level of achievement. Achievement in terms of provision of achievement of the overall improved, all right, improved states. Okay, so we have that as that. So now it says evaluation is very important. Okay, why is it so important? You need to understand that it is evaluation that enables us to know if a policy or government has achieved its stated objective. That is the whole essence. All right, that is the whole essence. Achieve, all right, the agenda. So basically, we have talked about the goals because what we have here, we have the goals. But with everything we have been explaining, everything we have been discussing, I believe you already understand, all right, the goals. But just to be sure, let's just quickly talk about some. Now, we'll talk about the goals of evaluation. Now, there's a general goal, and the general goal, all right, the general goal here, all right, of most evaluation is to provide useful feedback. Underline useful feedback. Useful feedback. Why do we need to go through all this stress? Because you need to be sure. You don't just want to assume. All right? Assumption might be dangerous. So, in order to be sure that this government has done what it has promised it will do, then you are doing this assessment. And by doing so, you are getting information back, which is where the feedback comes in. All right, to a variety of audiences, including the sponsors, administrators, everybody involved in the sponsoring or the administrator of the political evaluation process. So we have that as that. So we'll call it wrap here for today. So in our next class, we'll take it up from political evaluation research, which we'll be talking more on research itself. All right, but in the political field instead. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. I believe you have been able to get something in today's class. All right, like I said earlier, who haven't joined the private class, let's ensure to join the private class. And how do you get to do that? All you need to do is reach out to us on our official website, which is www.tutorio.net. You find the WhatsApp button in the top right hand corner, which you are to use that to send us a direct message. Thank you very much, everyone. And let's ensure to keep our notes up to date. The exams are fast approaching. And in the private class, I believe we're already getting our keynotes already. Please let's ensure to always request those keynotes so that the earlier you have them, the better you can start to utilize the keynotes. I wish you all the best and do have a wonderful evening. And bye for now.